Welcome back to another episode of the Choose Strong podcast. I am so stoked about we're on video, so it's not like I have to do this like formal introduction, and everyone knows listening I'm not very formal, but I have Maxwell Jolliffe in front of me, and most people know him as Womax on Instagram. Some people just call him Max. Max, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I told you right before we hit record that many times when I have guests on my podcast, and sometimes even when I just really get to know people, I love to find out about their name, the meaning of their name, because I think our names are so powerful. And this is where I'm going to start. So Max in and of itself means the greatest.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
I didn't know that, but that's cool.
So the greatest. It's your last name though, is what I'm going to hang on right now. Jolliffe is jolly. It's merry. It's happy. It's
Jolliffe, which is jolly life. So it's like happy life. And I think going back, I don't know how much research you did, but from what back in school when we did our family tree heritage stuff and we were studying, and who knows if this is actually real, but supposedly my family originated as the jesters to the king in England.
No way!
Yeah, the clowns. So, which is, even more fitting for me,
Awesome. Yeah. I love this. Yeah, because it's a British name.
Yes.
And so when I was reading that, I was like, this is so amazing. It's the greatest. It's happiness. It's joy. And really that is from the moment I got on the phone with you. So you and I met over the phone first. I know we were interacting online originally, and this was for our listeners. Just a really quick intro for you if you haven't heard of Max yet. You soon will. Max is the recent champion of Moab 240. He just released the film King of Moab, which will be hitting YouTube sometime very soon. We're going to put all the links in there. I very much encourage you to follow Womax on Instagram because he is a joyful person. But one of the things that I like to do on the side is to mentor, assist, help, guide any way I can athletes that are trying to navigate a career in this sport. It's an area that I feel like we've not done a great. There's just a big disservice to athletes that are trying to run professionally. Max reached out to me. We're both SoCal kids. We both grew up in SoCal. And I'll tell you, the moment I got on the phone with you, Max, the enthusiasm, the energy, the joy just came through the phone. And so when I knew that we were going to do this podcast together, I was like, oh, I want to look up what his name means. And I was like, of course it means that. You are your name. Exactly. And I think that as we go through life, it is important to remember who we are. And there have been a couple conversations as you have navigated contracts and conversations with people that I have reminded you, remember who you are and don't ever stray from that and stick to that in all that you do, because it will always be the most powerful part of you. It will always be the greatest thing that people remember about you. Yes. And so I just want you to know that as you stepped into my house today and I heard your voice and we gave each other a hug, I was like, you're your name. Thank you. I love that.
No, and just I just wanted to thank you so much. Just everything that you've done to help me out, like without even knowing me. It's just like I'm seriously forever grateful for the help that you've given me and just the inspiration, which I'm sure we'll get into, but how much you've inspired me to do what I do. And maybe we're just these happy, jolly, lucky people because we live right here next to the ocean. Maybe it's some of this stuff is pre-programmed into our genes, where we're from, what our names mean, but it could also be just the influence of our environment. And Southern California is like such a beautiful place. And it's so cool for me to, sometimes I feel like I don't really fit the professional runner or ultra runner or trail runner archetype because not a lot of people come from this area, come from Southern California. And it's just like so cool that you're an Orange County person. And I don't know, I just look up to you so much and you're a hero of mine. So I just wanted to thank you for all of that. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think that any opportunity that we get to have to connect with people in a real way is really a gift. And it's our greatest work is, I think, working on our hearts and realizing that if we can be the best that our best self, our greatest self, then we're able not only to pour into the lives of other people, but we learn from other people when we connect. And so, I really appreciate the kind words you've said, but you inspire me as well. You really do. And I think that one of the rules of my life is that I'll never stop learning. I will always, always long to learn, desire
We're so
to learn.
similar.
Yeah, it is so important.
Yeah.
It doesn't end when we get that, that diploma in college, like longing to learn. We learn the most when we connect with people. And so I've learned a lot from you and just the few conversations that I had. And it isn't even just in the knowledge of design. I know you're a designer for Hurley or how to run, but it's just like how you're navigating what it is that you're doing. And I think that's where I want to start, because Beach Kid, am I saying that right? That's the title.
Beach Kid.
Yeah, Beach Kids, which listeners, you need to check out this film on YouTube. It was actually directed by my very good friend, Tyler McCain, who is one of my favorite creatives on the globe.
Shout out Tyler.
He's just a good guy.
The best guy.
Tyler is a great man. And I've, as many of you guys know, Tyler has worked on every single project of mine in the last 2 years.
Can I also shout out Ulysses Gabriel, who
also
worked on the
we love Yuli. Yes, Yuli too. Yuli too. You big shout out.
Yeah.
Both great men who I respect very much. And
as well.
These are guys who are very thoughtful about their work. And they take their time to make their work good. And I'll tell you what, Beach Kid was done so well.
Right.
And before I watched it, I was like, okay, these guys aren't from SoCal. And I really hope they did SoCal right. And I was like, heck yeah, they did SoCal right. Like, it was just like the essence of SoCal. It was so good.
I feel like they did a really good job of capturing my personality and just painting a picture of who I am and just the race in Europe at UTMB, the TDS race. I mean, it was crazy, but I loved working with both those guys. Amazing people. I can't say enough good things about the two of them.
We'll make sure we put that link in the show notes. You guys check out Beach Kid. I forgot to mention, Max, about 60% of our listeners are currently running.
Okay.
So most people listen to us in the gym, on the treadmill, during a long run. We have a lot of people that listen to us while they race.
Oh, nice.
It's incredible.
I love that.
So,
if you're out there putting in the work and getting after it, respect.
I love that. So this is something that they can watch on the treadmill for all of our treadmill, stair mill people right now. If you're listening to this in the winter, we're recording this right now in January. This is a great film that you can watch. It's roughly 30 minutes. But the reason why I brought up the film right now, Max, is because the part in the film that I really appreciated you shared is the season in your life that wasn't so joyful. And I really do believe that when we choose to walk through seasons in life, and we choose to overcome. We choose to, hey, I want to do something great with my life. And I believe there is something better for me.
Yeah.
Or this idea of dreaming and imagining. It's one of the greatest things about being a human is we have the ability to imagine things. We also have the choice to believe that we can achieve it. And that doesn't mean it's easy, but you've done all those things.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to start with, the kind of how you grew up, the family that you grew up in, the season that was hard, and then we'll take it into running. I know you've been interviewed a ton about Moab 240.
Yeah.
I know there's so much out there, and we can take a lot of that in. But what my listeners know to be true is we're down to earth, we're real, and I really like to expose just like a real life and the things that make you who you are, which is the greatest thing of who you are. Outside of running, Max, outside of surfing, outside of being a designer, just who you are from day one has been amazing.
Thank you. So, do you want me to just jump in?
Yeah, jump in. We'd love to hear it.
So I grew up in Newport Beach, I live in Costa Mesa now, so just back and forth between those two cities.
Which blend into each other.
Yeah,
They
it's
kind of, the Back Bay area. I grew up in Costa
right.
Mesa,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I think you actually, I remember you telling me on the phone, you grew up on pretty much the street that I live on.
Yeah, I grew up off of Fairview.
Yeah, so growing up in Newport, went to school, Newport Heights, Ensign, Newport Harbor.
Yes.
Had a pretty standard upbringing.
Siblings? Do you have siblings?
I have a younger sister, yeah, who
Okay.
she just had well, she didn't just have, but she has a 2-year-old,
Okay.
and then another one coming. So I'm an
Aw.
uncle. That's been amazing. Yeah, and my, growing up, my family life was a little bit rough. My family, I come from a long line of alcoholics and people who struggle with addiction. So I think I was always kind of doomed from the beginning to kind of suffer from those things. So through high school, I was never really too good at anything. Like I wasn't a good athlete. I actually didn't even run until way later.
It's amazing.
I played water polo in high school and did swimming and joined the wrestling team. And I wasn't a gifted athlete. I was really small. I was a really short, small kid. Like when I joined the wrestling team, my sophomore year of high school, I was in the 103 weight class, which is the
Wow.
lightest weight class. Yeah. So I was like, I wasn't gifted. I wasn't talented. And yeah, during high school, started, like a lot of people do, got caught up in partying and just I began heading down a bad path. And then after high school, yeah, I don't know how deep I should get into this, but
You can.
yeah,
Yeah.
my dad got really, really deep into his addiction and struggles, and my only escape really was to find escape in drugs and alcohol. And I didn't have any direction. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any life skills. I was just kind of like floating along, and it got really, really dark. And
This was after high school?
this was after high
Were
school.
you still living at home?
Yeah, but I mean, we were like getting evicted from houses, and we didn't have money. I was like,
And your mom was, you guys were still a family intact? Like, were your
so
parents still together?
my mom moved to Arizona because she could. I mean, after her and my dad split, she couldn't afford to stay here in Orange County. I mean, it's so expensive.
Mhm.
And she went and lived in Arizona, and I didn't want a life in Arizona. I really wanted to stay here with my friends where I grew up.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got stuck with someone who was maybe a little bit unequipped or incapable to take care of 2 children.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was rough. It was really rough.
Because you're
And
watching that up close every
Yeah.
single day. And was he working, or was he just home all day?
yeah, but like in between jobs, there were months where we didn't have money, and we'd be getting eviction notice, and he'd have to borrow money from people, and I was trying to provide.
So you were working.
Well, I was getting money in maybe not a legal way, but I was just trying to survive,
Yeah.
And
it's amazing.
yeah, I did that for a couple years, really struggled. I started getting in trouble with the law. I was, getting arrested, got put on probation. I was going to went to detox, couldn't get clean, couldn't get sober, and just the consequences of this life that I was living were starting to pile up. And it wasn't until I got arrested in 2011 when I finally had the opportunity to get sober and turn my life around. And that day was April 6th. I got arrested again. So April 6th, 2012 was the last day that I used drugs or alcohol, and I've been sober ever since. And
Amazing.
yeah, it was I feel like it was a miracle. Like the stars had aligned for me, where I was in a point in my life where I was just beat up enough to be willing to do whatever it took. And I spent a couple months in jail. I had violated my probation, and I gave like 10 dirty drug tests. Like I could not get clean. It was every single day. I was like, I need to this is my last day. I need to stop. I know I'm going to go to jail. I just can't. I just could not get clean. And it was like the stars had aligned, and I was able to finally get sober. And I did my time in jail, and I got out, and I immediately got into 12-step programs, and I got this little community around me, and I started rebuilding my life.
Can you elaborate on that? So the way the turning point for you was hitting rock bottom and having to be separated from society. So you were put in jail, and that's
Right.
what helped you.
Yeah.
Essentially, because you were cut off from everything.
Yeah.
How long were you in jail for when that happened?
Almost 3 months. Yeah. So I did like a 90-day violation, and they give you some time off if you, But
what was that like for your body? And just that experience in there?
So the clothes that you go in with, they release you in those clothes. So just to give you some context, when I put my pants back on at the end of that 90 days, my button broke. So I was so sick and like just strung out and unhealthy and skinny that those 90 days in jail, I had put on like probably 30 pounds back. So yeah, it was just a crazy experience being in there. Like I did not enjoy it. It was not fun. It's somewhere that I never want to end up again. And that's kind of like the motivation for me to just keep doing better in my life and just keep trying to improve, because I'm never going back that way. All I can do is move forward, and that can be applied to so many different aspects of my life. And I wouldn't have anything today if I wasn't sober. And that's like kind of the fun, like the most important thing in my life is just staying sober and keeping on this right track, because I'm the type of person, I take everything to the extreme. I get obsessed about things. And for a long time, it was just like drugs and alcohol had filled that void in me that now I find in crazy stuff like running and challenges and races and pushing it's like the same thing that was killing me is what's kind of helped me become so successful nowadays. So it's like your greatest curse can also be a blessing sometimes. You never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Max, I just want to pause there and first say thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy, and we have a lot of listeners every week. So we hear from our community a lot, and there's a lot of people that are relating to you right now. So I just want you to know that every single season that you've gone through in your life is not wasted. It's not in vain. And when we're in those tough times, it feels like that. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting my life. But the way that you have chosen to move forward is one of the greatest things about you.
Yeah.
And you are in a very visible, powerful way showing people that we can overcome.
And there is a solution.
And
if
there
you're
is a
struggling.
solution, and there's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope. And I think this idea that and it's amazing to me. I have to just share with you, I come from a very long line of drug addicts and alcoholics. It is very deep.
Yeah.
And I am in every way a black sheep in my family, like extended family. And I used to fear that. I feared it so much. I never even tasted alcohol till I was like 22. And it's something that even to this day, if someone said you could never have alcohol again, I'm like, I'm fine. That's great. It's not something I choose never to need it or have to order it or anything like that. But being aware of our weaknesses is part of what makes us human.
Exactly.
We all have them.
Yeah.
And I think this idea that you talked about, where you're telling yourself, oh my gosh, I'm back here again. I need to stop. I need to stop. I need to stop. And it's over and over and over again. There are so many wonderful people who quit, that give up and say, this is just my life. It's too hard to stop.
And we lose those people.
people.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's really sad.
I mean, as grateful as I am to just be in the community of sobriety and the friends that I made, one of the most tragic things is you get close to these people who are sick and they have a disease that they will always have. And a lot of those people slip up, and I've lost so many friends. It's just like, it's really, really sad. And I just want to be as transparent and open about my story. Like, if, there might be people out there that relate, and I would just want them to know, like, there is a solution. Like, you can do it. I did it. And I felt for a long, long time, like there was no way out. And I'm different. The other people that might have been able to get, they don't feel like how I feel, And I just had finally gotten this opportunity and made this decision, like, I just need to try to go to AA and try something different than what I had been doing. And I learned from a lot of people there that, like, I'm just the same as them, as much as I felt different and like it wasn't going to work for me. It did. All I had to do was just show up and take some direction and try things different and stay accountable and be honest. And it's just like learning these life skills. Like I said earlier, it was after high school, I had no skills, I had no direction. And it was like, until I found these people that were like me, I was able to learn from them. And I just built my life from pretty much nothing, just with the guidance of amazing people that I'm still connected to. And it's just been a crazy journey,
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm sitting across the table from you, which is such an honor and a great pleasure, Max. And I'm feeling this incredible enthusiasm and joy. And one thing I know to be true, because I have a lot of friends that are recovering addicts as well. And I feel like that a lot of the addicts that I know, they're some of the most joyful people I know.
Yeah.
And I think a piece of that, and please expand on this, a piece of it is that you have essentially been through a rebirth. You understand what is so important in life. You also have seen up front what it is to lose a life, to be in a place that's so dark and lonely and isolated and controlling that suppresses like the spirit of who you are. And when people experience that rebirth, it's like this renewed joy for life, this renewed, you almost become unstoppable because you're like, I have been through hell and I know what's worth it in life. And I feel that from you. I feel like you have this, and that's why it's so beautiful. It's like you are your name. And just because you had seasons in your life where it wasn't joyful, you are who you were meant to be the day that you were born.
Right.
And I think what has made you so joyful are those struggles, are those dark seasons.
Yeah. And I have a choice to learn from those things and use those to be better. And a lot of times the darkest times in my life or the greatest struggles that I've had have been the catalyst to growth. And just kind of like the thing you said earlier about just always being teachable, like remaining teachable and always wanting to learn and always wanting to do better. It's like I've gone through a bunch of really tough times and tough things, but I've not let those go to waste. They've always been learning lessons. I've always tried to not let my circumstances or my life be for nothing, and let that motivate me to do better. And yeah.
I love that. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. One of the relationships that I am most proud of in my life is the relationship I have with Eddie James McRae. And I'll tell you what, a common misconception about strong relationships is that they have to be easy to be right. Sometimes the best relationships happen when both people choose to put in the work to make them great. And I believe therapy can be a great place to work through the challenges you face in all of your relationships, whether with friends, work, your significant other, or anyone. In past experience, I have found that therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma or have major challenges in life. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit betterhelp.com/choosestrong today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/choosestrong. Now, I want to continue on in this story because it's so powerful, because I'm guessing, I'm assuming this, that if someone told you 5, even 10 years ago that you'd be where you are today at this very moment.
No chance. No chance.
You'd be like, what?
You're living in dreamland. Yeah.
And I'm talking from your wonderful partner, Mackenzie,
Yeah, she's the best.
to being a designer at Hurley, which, come on, that's a very coveted position here in SoCal. Like you're working for a badass brand. You're doing something super cool.
Right.
And
just for the record, I didn't just like walk into that position. Like I started at the company pretty much sweeping floors, back in 2012 when I first got sober. And it's like, I've just learned everything.
Go from there, because this is so beautiful. And I'll tell you what, there's so many people that are already just blown away by your story.
Thank
okay.
you.
Because I could have just been like, let's talk about Moab 240.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I want people to know the best part of who you are.
I appreciate
that.
And
this is it.
So, so fast forward, I go through this rough spot. I'm now getting my life back on track. I get a job at Hurley, like such a cool company. I meet this guy that works there, JP Olson, shout out JP. This guy, he became a friend of mine, and we would just like do all kinds of like cool art stuff and printing t-shirts and making these art prints and making posters. And I was just helping out so much. He was pretty much like, hey, can we start like paying you to just do whatever we need? Like if it's
no background,
cleaning screen, no background. I wasn't an artist. I wasn't anything. I was just down to help, and that led to, I did that for quite a few years. I was in the art department, like helping with marketing activations and doing fine art. And then, this is all connected to like just my philosophy of like business and how I run my brand. And I learned how to design t-shirts, and I learned graphic design. And then I was doing, making some pretty cool stuff. And then this guy on the graphics department team was like, hey, I know you don't really know too much about this, but I want to put you in a position and sit you next to this really experienced guy and just learn from him. And I want to give you a year to just learn. Like, don't worry about any performance metrics or I just want you to soak up as much as you can. And I joined the graphics team, and then I started doing that for a long time. And I was like, I kind of have some good ideas for apparel. Like I'd like to like try to sketch out this pant or this short. Like I want to like try to, and then eventually I left the graphics team and joined the cut and sew team and started doing pants and making walk shorts and making woven tops. So I have like this like very extensive background in apparel design and graphic design and just branding, marketing, logos. So amazing. I was like gifted with the most incredible opportunity to I never went to school for any of this. I never went to college. I just like got lucky that I landed in this place where these people were willing to take a chance on me. And I took advantage of every opportunity to learn as much as I can and soak everything up and just try to make the best of my situation. And I'm still there today. I've been there for 12 years, and
Max, would you go home at night and try to tinker on the computer? Were you just like, I need to learning all these programs?
Photoshop and Illustrator were like a foreign language to me. I was like, I don't know any of it. Like, how am I going to figure this out? And I would spend tons of my spare time just like trying to tinker with stuff. Like, oh, that's what that tool does. And oh, that's what this tool does. And like just learning from people, and people would teach me things like, oh, hey, here's a shortcut for this. And I was just like, I just want to learn all of this, and it was a really, really good opportunity for me. And and this is kind of my intro into running. So we don't have it anymore, but Hurley used to be a part of Nike. So I used to be a Nike employee for quite a few years. The company was sold, new ownership. During that time, we actually lost this skate park that we used to have there. So on the Nike Hurley campus, we had this warehouse where it was just a giant skate park. And I started going into the skate park just on my spare time. Like I quit skating, like hadn't really skated in a long time just from being caught up in all the bad stuff that I was doing. I quit surfing, quit skating. I was just, I was struggling. And I finally get this job. I start picking up all these new old hobbies, and the saying, you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Yes.
You skate in the skate park for long enough and you're going to get injured. Like it's just a fact. And I broke one of my ankles, and then like 6 months later I broke my other ankle.
No
so it was
way.
Like, it was, and that's just par for the course. Every skater gets injured at some point in time, and it's just kind of like getting older. Like when you get into your late 20s, 30s, you fall and you slam, and like, you don't just pop right back up anymore. It's like things actually hurt and get broken. So, Yeah, I was out from these injuries for a long time, and I had a roommate that was like really into fitness and going to the gym. He was actually a bodybuilder, and I came to him and I was like, "Hey, I'm just like not feeling like I just feel like crap, you know? I'm out of shape. I can't do anything. I'm just been stagnant on the couch playing. I mean, I was on a knee scooter for a long time, just because I really couldn't do anything. And he started taking me to the gym, showing me like just how to lift weights and all this stuff. And I do really enjoy lifting weights, but at the time I was like, I don't really want to like be this like big buff like bodybuilder guy. I'm just gonna go like do the stair climber, or I'm gonna go do the elliptical machine. Like I couldn't even run on the treadmill because my ankles were still messed up. So yeah, and then eventually that led to I just go to the gym and run on the treadmill for an hour. And I I f- one day I was like, why am I going to the gym to just run on the treadmill? Like I can just do this outside and save the 30 or 40 bucks a month
Yep.
that I was paying for the 24-hour gym membership. And yeah, I just started running outside, and that was like the beginning of my running journey. I was just like trying to feel better. I was just trying to get back into shape. And I started running, and it was so hard. Like running is so hard. I remember I could barely run 4 miles, and I was like, dude, maybe next time I run, and I would run and I'd be sore for a week. I'd run so sporadically. It was like once every 2 weeks, and I was just started to become a little bit more consistent. I'd try to run a little bit faster, or I'd try to run a little bit further. And I started making these little goals for myself. Like I want to try to run 10 miles without stopping. Like I remember that being such a huge goal for me.
Do you
Like,
remember that day when you did
yeah,
that?
yeah. On the river trail. I remember
I love that.
running 5 miles out, and I was like, I made it. I just need to make it home now. So yeah, and I got a lot of satisfaction in making these like small achievable goals, and I started achieving them, and I was like, oh, I'm like really progressing in this thing that's hard. And it was just like I just got like so much just satisfaction from it, where I was like, I just want to push myself. I just want to keep doing this. And then, I run 13 miles. I'm like, that's a half marathon. Like I could probably just like sign up for a marathon and try to train for a marathon. Like I just ran half of one. Like I could probably run a full one. And then you run one marathon, and then you know what happens. You sign up for another one, and then another marathon. And then I wonder if I can run this like 50K like trail race. I got all these friends that are like going up to
Laguna Canyons.
Yeah. The first ultra race I ran was not Black Canyon. It was Broken Arrow Sky Race in Tahoe.
Yeah, yes.
So yeah, I had a bunch of friends going there, and I was like, I'm gonna try this like ultra marathon, and signed up for that, and I finished it. And I was like, oh, that was so cool. Actually, really, really hard 50K.
It's very hard. Your altitude, it's steep.
Yeah. 11,000 feet of vertical gain. Yeah. So I really threw myself into the fire with that one, but I was
what year was this? So when you were like, dude, I'm running 10, 13 miles, this 2018?
Probably 2018, because I ran my first marathon, OC marathon, in 2019.
Okay.
And then the next one I ran was LA Marathon, March of 2020.
Okay. Wow. Right before everything shut down. Yeah.
So, and then after COVID, we had a kind of a little break, and it wasn't until 2021, I believe it was 2021 or 2022, that I ran my first ultra race.
Okay.
And then I was like, I ran a 50K, and I was like, I'm going to see if I can run 100K. And then I ran 100K, and then I was like, maybe okay, so this is my intro into like ultra long distance, like more than 100 miles. I Satisfy, a brand that I'm sponsored by, they are a sponsor of Cocodona, and it was Cocodona 2023.
Okay.
And do you remember the
that's the year I did it.
Yeah.
Their aid stations was the best one.
So I was volunteering at the aid station.
You were?
Yeah,
it
was. So I was like, I was there in the middle of the night. I had like stayed up all night because I wanted to see like the front runners come through, and Michael Versteeg came through. I saw probably the top, and Mika, I remember her coming through, and I saw the top probably 5 people come through. And for some reason in my head, I had built these people up. I mean, as much as I still look up to Mike and Mika, like they're incredible people, but in my head, I had kind of like built them up as these like superhuman, like superhero people.
Untouchable.
And I'm at mile 100 aid station, and I'm seeing these people come through, and they're all like beat up. Yeah. They're in shambles. And I'm like, oh, these are just regular people. Like they're just like powering through, and they're struggling. And I was like, oh, they're not these, I mean, they are superhuman. But I
Yeah.
don't want to sell them short, but it just kind of put it into perspective.
You
like,
felt like you could relate to them.
I could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I know I would be looking like that and feeling like that.
Yeah.
So, maybe I could do a 100-mile race. And I signed up for this race called Samo 100 Mile.
Oh, yeah.
It's put on by KH Races, which I think it later was renamed to Malibu Canyon, and now that's gone away and it's become Leona Divide 100 miles. So that's what she kind of turned it into. But the first 100-mile race that I ran, it was right after Cocodona. And I'm like, I'm going to do 100 miles. And I signed up with like a month notice.
I love
and
it.
I met Jesse Haynes, who has later
He's awesome.
he's gone on to become like my greatest mentor. Like I actually started a rumor that Jesse Haynes is my biological father. We kind of look alike a little bit, so like I think some people can believe it. But
you both have cool hair.
Yeah. No, he's just been a great person, and he's taught me so much. And Kira's, me and Mackenzie went to their house for dinner this last Christmas for Christmas dinner. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah. But I ran my first 100-miler and I got second place.
Amazing. Like, that probably just revved the confidence
and
right there.
I was like, it's on. Like this is all I want to do from now on is the really long distance stuff. So and then it's the rest is kind of history.
That's incredible. I think what I was hearing over and over again is you were talking about, moving, you come out of jail, you come out of this tough situation, you move through this 12-step program, you get this job sweeping floors. It's with everything you were curious, and it came down to you just making that choice. Well, I'm just going to go try it. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Like, I have nothing to lose. And man, that is such a great way to move through life. It doesn't always need to be this like massive, a lot of people talk about like their why, as if like you don't always need like this intense, deep why. Sometimes it's just like tapping into the fact that like you get to wonder and imagine,
and you'll figure it out along the way.
Figure it out. I mean, I love that you started off sweeping floors, and the people saw who you were, and that's why they gave you.
And they believed in me.
They believed in you. They're like, having this spirit of teachability is something that not everyone has. It's hard to teach somebody that's overly pompous, that thinks they know everything, or is cynical and negative and just doesn't believe that anything good's going to happen in their life. I mean, it would have been really easy for you to be like, yeah, I deserve to sweep floors. Like, this is, I don't have skills. Like, this is it for me. There are people that live that way, that stay in that state of, and sometimes, and we have to have compassion because it's like no one ever believed in them. No one ever showed them that they were valuable, that they actually do have something to offer, that they do have capabilities, that what they dream and desire and that they love, it does matter, that is valuable. And so they let other people's opinions, other people's views of who they are, that's how they live their life. Right. And I think that you defied that. Yeah. It would be really easy for people to be like, oh, you went to jail. Oh, you did this or you did that. Like, oh yeah. And then think that I have to live in this stereotype. No, we don't. We are not defined by things that we did. We're defined by how we move forward. Exactly. By how we respond, how we react. Like our reaction to the things that we go through in life, that's 90% of our life. Yeah. 10% is just what happens to us. It's just the events that we go through. But how we respond, that is a direct picture of who you are as a person. And
Thank you. You nailed it. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, Max.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
It's great. It's the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and all I'm trying to do is just continue getting better, keep pushing myself, keep trying new things. And if I can inspire some people along the way and just tell my story in a very true and authentic way and connect with people, like that's a win, and that's all I'm trying to do. And like I said earlier, I'm just following the Sally program. Like I'm just signing up for races, training as hard as I can. I'm putting in the work. I'm documenting it all. I'm trying to just tell my story, and like you've been just one of my biggest inspirations. So again, like I can't thank you enough. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think that you saying that you signed up for a 100-mile race just 18 months ago. and deciding like, I want to do this.
Mhm.
And we're only like 4 months removed from the day that you crossed the finish line, the champion of Moab 240, which
Yeah.
is a very difficult race.
Yeah.
Your life has changed so much in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And what is even more exciting to know is that you don't know what the next 18 months holds.
Mhm.
And we had a big conversation off camera before, and I was like, oh man, we probably should have hit record, earlier. But I love it because a lot of what we discussed was just like these hopes and these dreams and these
Mhm.
things that you really want to do.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to rest a little bit on that first 100 miler because we do have a lot of listeners that are ultra runners.
Mhm.
100-mile distance. I mean, I still think the marathon is an incredibly difficult
Oh, yeah.
distance.
I fear a fast marathon more than I fear 100-miler. Like
I've
it's
heard
all,
this.
Yeah, it's all relative. Like
Yeah.
like depending on how hard you push yourself, like
Yes.
a 10K can be so painful.
Yes.
One single mile can be hurt so bad. Like it's
Yeah.
gonna be over quick, but the pain is just like it's just weirdly different, you know?
It
Yeah.
really is. And I think jumping from 100 miles to 240 miles, that's more than double the distance.
Yeah.
What do you think, Max, as we kind of lean into just like mindset and what goes through your head? And I think this is where we're all being really inspired by you right now, because clearly you are someone who's very courageous. And I think the thing that I love about that word is that regardless of what you don't know that's ahead, you go anyway.
Yeah.
So it isn't like I'm doing this because I know I'm going to succeed.
Mhm.
I'm doing this because it's worth it, and I want to find out what's on the other end.
Yeah.
And that's where our character is created. It's
Mhm.
created in the journey. It's not
Right.
created in the result, because not everything ends with being at the top of the podium or that bigger paycheck or a great partner. There's a lot of failure and setbacks and pain when we choose to be courageous. And so I'm just curious, what was the thought process for you from going to 100 to 240, but how did your life change and what were the decisions that you're making and why did you choose to keep on going in that direction?
Keep on pushing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just that first 100-miler. I had such a good result. Like I was not expecting to finish second place. Like I was thinking like, hey, maybe I can finish this. Like I was just worried about finishing, and
Right.
the race just played out so well that I was like, I'm gonna just start like that month of training that I put in. I mean, I like really ramped it up, and I was like, after that race, I didn't stop. I didn't rest on my laurels. I didn't take a break. I just continued to train, and I just kept my training going. And I was training really, really hard for the rest of that summer, and I didn't run any races. And then I showed up to this race called Saddles, which is in Arizona. That's a race that Michael Versteeg puts
Mhm.
on. And literally the night before the race, he was like, "Hey, I got an extra bib if you like want to run." And I was like, I didn't have any nutrition or hydrate. Luckily, I brought my trail vest with me.
Why were you there? Was it just for friends or just hanging out for the
it's a
event?
Satisfy event. I had a friend who was running the 100-miler, so I was like, maybe I'll pace him for like 20 miles or something.
Okay.
So luckily, I brought my running stuff. But I was like, you know what? Like, yeah, I'll just run the 50. Like, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. Like, I didn't taper. I didn't even know I was running the race, and I signed up the night before, and then I won the 50-miler the next day
Love it.
and I was like, dude. I just totally blew my expectations out of the water for the 100-miler. I show up to this 50 and like win it without any preparation
Yeah.
or knowledge that I
And
was
there's
even going to
people
do
on the
race.
line with you that have been training for that for
Yeah.
a long time.
So I was like, maybe I'm like kind of good at this ultra running thing, like maybe, I don't know. I'm going to try to like really double down and put all of my effort into trying to be the best ultra runner that I can. And the whole next year, so that was October 2023.
Okay.
And then in 2024, I lit fire. I started, so right after Saddles, I saw you and Jesse both win Moab.
Okay, yeah.
So that was like a huge inspiration that 2 Orange County people
Mhm.
had just won this like crazy race that I heard about like David Goggins, he writes about in his book, and Courtney Dauwalter like wins it outright out of the males, and like she wins the entire race, and Cam Hanes is running, and I knew about Moab, and then you guys winning it, I was like, I have to try this race. So I signed up in October, and I just dedicated the next year of my life to training for Moab. So from, I think the lottery opens in like it's like usually right after the race, so it was probably November, and I just remember I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm gonna start running 100-mile weeks every single week from now until I run Moab. And I strategically planned out my year with some races to build up to Moab. So in January, I signed up for I signed up for it earlier, but my first race of 2024 was Sean O'Brien 100K.
Okay.
So I ran Sean O'Brien 100K. I had trained my ass off. I did so much work, and I got a really good result. I won Sean O'Brien.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which it was really tough. It was a notoriously hot year last year. It was like something like 80 degrees in January,
our coastal trails in Southern California are very deceptive.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's like, oh, you got these smooth trails. It's like, it's a ton of climbing, and it's exposed the whole time.
It was.
There's no shade. There
was no shade. Yeah. And so I had a really good result at Sean O'Brien, and just each one of these like little wins just like gave me a little bit more motivation. It was just like kind of just lighting that fire a little bit more, that I could just like push myself further and just train harder. And it was just like gave me motivation. And then my second 100-miler that I ran was Leona Divide 100-miler, which was in April. So I went January. Couple months later, didn't stop training. I'm on a run streak. I've been running for the last 1,180. Today's 86. 1,186.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow. Is it? Do you have a minimum that you
at
need
least
to do?
a mile? Yeah, at least a mile.
That's amazing.
So that's been great for like. I'm a huge advocate of consistency over time. It's like that will yield results more than anything else.
We talk about that a lot on the podcast. It's people get so obsessed with intensity, duration. Is like consistency trumps all
show
that.
Up.
Yeah,
you just got to show up every day.
I love it.
Yeah. So after Sean O'Brien, I just kept my train. I didn't even take a down week. I was just like straight back into 100-mile weeks, because I know Moab's coming up. So I run Leona. Moab was like the scariest thing. Signing up for that race was the scariest thing I'd ever done. I was like,
it's beyond unknown territory.
Yeah.
It's more than double of what you've ever done.
Right. And just knowing that it was coming was just a big motivator to just work as hard as possible. So Leona Divide, another really hot, tough race. I had another really good result. And these races, I'm just trying to learn about my fueling and my nutrition. Like I'm just
all the newbie things.
Right. I'm
all the newbie things. And you have no sponsors at this point? Or have you picked up sponsors?
So the beginning of last year, I've only been a professional runner for a year. So I got sponsored by Satisfy at the beginning of 2024. So won Sean O'Brien 100K, and then I went 100 miles, and then I go to UTMB and I ran this race called TDS, which is like
gnarly.
I don't know if there's
harder than UTMB.
I don't know if there's a harder 100-miler like maybe in the world. 30,000 feet, 31,000 feet of elevation.
And it's rugged and rough.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not a full 100. It was only 94 miles, but that makes it even harder. Like
so to our listeners, TDS is part of the UTMB week, which is in many ways for our sport for a long time has kind of been considered like the deepest, most competitive, most widely reached week of ultra running. For a long time, it felt like that was our world championships because we get the deepest field.
Yeah,
it's the biggest field of people at the start line, but we get people from all over the world are invited to race, which I've always appreciated. I've always loved that about going there. But for whatever reason, TDS has always kind of been like the stepsister of UTMB. So it's like
the evil stepsister,
and is always overlooked. And I don't understand that because it's a mere, the mileage difference is just a mere handful of miles. And it's sad to point this out, but we've had multiple people have died on that course. It's very rugged. It's a little bit more backcountry running. It's not as well groomed. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't always get as much coverage. But a lot of times when people don't get into UTMB, they're kind of scrambling for like, okay, am I going to do CCC? Am I going to do
It's easier to get
OCC?
into than the
It's
main events, the
easier.
UTMB, OCC, and
Mhm.
CCC. So it was the race that I chose. I'm like, I know it has. So kind of my reasoning for choosing TDS was it's 100 milers, but it's weirdly a 2-night race because it
Yes.
starts at midnight. So
Yeah.
I was like,
Which is
hey,
brutal.
brutal. But I was like, I know Moab's coming. So if
Yeah.
I can run a race where I'm up for running through multiple
for you.
nights, it'll at least be good practice of running at night and experiencing like a longer race.
Mhm.
So just because it's so much vertical gain, it takes longer than your average 100 miler.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was just like that was like the last step in the ladder leading to Moab, and I had another really good finish at TDS. It was just like I kept surprising myself. I finished top 20. I think I was the third American, but
incredible.
Yeah, finished in under 24 hours. So it was really, really cool to just have all these stepping stones, like these races where I just kept gaining confidence, and never let up off the gas through my training, just continuously showing up, continuously putting in the work. And then it was like, by the time I had finished those 3 races, like I was ready for Moab, you know?
You gain that confidence. I love this in The Beach Kid because they actually film you the day after TDS, which is, you're right, the climbing and equally the descending is so brutal. And if you've not, listeners, if you've not been to the Alps, it is different from our mountains here in the United States for the most part. They're aggressive climbs.
Very steep.
Very
steep, technical.
Very technical. And so your body is like, what did you just do? And the next day you were running your mile.
Yeah.
So you were like, I'm sick of this. And I loved that part of the Beach Kid documentary because I was like, within your mind, it isn't so much to immediately celebrate what you have just done, but you're like, I'm getting right back to work,
which is the ritual,
which
it's the routine.
We look over that though.
Yeah.
I think so often it's easy when we achieve something. We hear of like people having the blues. Some people have race blues after they complete it because the buildup has been so strong. All eyes, all attention, all energy has been on that one race. And I think that we cross the finish line and then there's like this drop in energy, this drop in training, there's drop in everything that was your life for 6-7 months as you built up. And it's so easy then to kind of feel like you're in no man's land and be like, wait, what am I going to do now?
You just need a new challenge and a new goal.
We need a new challenge, new goal.
Yeah.
But the simplicity of the consistency that you have in the structure of your day. So it's like, yeah, I did that amazing, great thing, but like, that's what I did yesterday. And so we're right back on the saddle. That is so powerful.
Yeah.
I'm rolling out of bed and I'm getting a mile in and they documented how much pain you were in too. You're like stiff and you're like, okay, we're going slow. And
yeah, it sucks. But to be honest with you, and a lot of people like, maybe it is counterproductive. I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
I loved it.
I don't know what's best, but I do notice that if I just keep moving and just like, there's something to be said about active recovery and just if you just move your legs, you'll feel better quicker.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be super painful because your toes and you got blisters all over your feet. But if you just keep moving, like you increase the blood flow in your legs, like blood flow is healing. Like just keep moving.
Absolutely.
That's just been my motto. Just keep moving.
I
like
love
even
that.
during races, like if I'm feeling down, if I'm having a hard time, it's just like, hey, just keep moving. Just there's always a solution to whatever problem that I'm facing. If I'm cramping, I can take more salt. If I'm feeling low energy, I can take more fuel. If I'm, but there's always just all I have to focus on is just keep moving forward and never giving up.
Listeners, you've heard that from Max, the just keep moving. That might have to be your phrase. We might need to put that on a, I don't know if you can use just, but just do it. No, I'm just kidding. But I love the just keep moving. And if those of you that are racing right now or that you are running, maybe you're working up a big climb right now, those words are powerful. And I know as we're going to kind of veer into talking about Moab 240 right now, one thing that I would tell myself over and over again, I can either sit in an aid station and think that I'm going to get better by sitting here for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I can complain and really lean into how bad I feel right now, or I can walk and do that.
Yeah.
And I think that that idea of just keep moving. It doesn't matter how bad you're feeling. It's not what you're not going to change how you're feeling within 30 minutes by sitting in a chair, unless there's something medically that you need to take care of right then and there. I've forced myself so many times. Yeah, the blisters are screaming at you. Yeah, you're throwing up, but like walk. You need to keep moving.
Yeah.
You need to keep covering ground because you'll probably cover a mile and a half in that time that you would have been sitting.
And it's wild that this is something that I've learned just with after running all of these races is no matter how bad you're feeling at a certain point, you're always going to feel different.
Yes.
Like at like just 30 minutes or an hour later, like if you just take care of whatever is ailing you or you just like, you know, do something different, you're going to feel different. Like you're never stuck in that deep hole that you might find yourself in deep in a race. Like just try to do something different and you're going to feel different. Just keep moving. Just eat, you know, there's always a solution.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is where another piece of this episode, I think our listeners are really going to gain a lot from you because, you know, essentially you're going in as a very fresh rookie. All these races, you're a rookie standing at the start line. And, you know, as you are gaining confidence through these races in 2024, it's now time to stand at the start line of Moab 240, the furthest distance that you have ever embarked on. It's safe to say that even 2 years before that, you would have never even dreamed of doing that.
No way. Yeah.
But somehow you have found yourself at the start line of Moab 240. Kind of take us through, Max, what's going through your head the night before the race, and then as you stand at that start line. So just that, because it's very important.
Yeah.
I think if people are training for a 10K, half marathon, a marathon, the night before the race, the time that we get on the start line, the things that you are telling yourself, what you believe to be true about who you are, often we carry with us into the race.
So I'll be totally honest with you. I was so scared. I was so nervous. I could barely sleep the night before. It was just, I mean, every single race that I do, I'm always nervous. Like even in a local 10K, I'll be nervous for, you know. So going into it, I was definitely scared, but I knew that I was going to finish no matter what. I know I'm never going to give up. So I said it in my film. It's like there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to finish the race. It was just how fast was I going to finish it? So going into the race, quitting was never an option. And all I was focused on was putting forth running the greatest race that I could racing to my full potential. And I knew there was going to be a lot of hiccups and like problems along the way. So just try to like learn and from the experience of running for multiple days in a row, like running this multi-day race. Like I knew there were a lot of things that I was going to experience that I'd never experienced before. The sleep deprivation, I got blisters on my tongue. I don't know if this has ever happened to you.
Yes. In Cocodona I did. I'd never experienced that in my life.
I learned about this at the finish line from like Jeff Browning and Kyle Curtin. They're like, oh yeah, you need just plain water to rinse your mouth. Like I didn't learn that until the race was over. So it was like, I just
makes eating very difficult.
Right. Yeah. It was, oh my gosh. And learning like dealing with my feet and dealing with gear problems and shoe problems. So it was, I was just looking at it as, you know, it was going to be at minimum a great learning experience. And by the time I got to the start line, I was really, really nervous and scared. And to be honest, like kind of irritable, like leading up to the race. Like, I don't like all the prep. I don't like the lead up. I don't like the build up. But once I got to the start line and Candace is reading off if you get lost, hurt, or die, it's your own damn fault.
I know.
At that point, I was like, all right, it's on. Like I was excited.
You just want it to start. Right. You just want to be in it already.
Exactly. I'm standing next to Sarah Ostazuski, one of our dear friends.
She's rad. Shout out to Sarah. We love you.
Yeah. And I was ready to go. Yeah. It was like all of my fear and anxiety had just been washed away. And I was excited to just embark on this like crazy journey. And gosh, what a crazy journey it was. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Blissy. Blissy offers premium sleep and wellness products crafted from the highest quality 100% mulberry silk. Their signature Blissy silk pillowcases, which are on my pillows right now, is designed to improve skin, hair, and sleep quality. Who knew that a pillowcase could be the reason why my skin has blemishes and my hair is breaking? Now, let me tell you just a few benefits of using these pillowcases. They have anti-aging properties, reduce fine lines and wrinkles over time. They eliminate frizz, preserve hairstyles, and protect color-treated hair. And they are clinically proven to not clog pores, unlike cotton. Now, these have been a game changer for me, and I'm so excited I get to offer this incredible discount just for you, our listeners. Blissy is offering 60 nights risk-free plus an additional 30% off when you shop at blissy.com/strongpod. That's BLISSY.com/STRONGPOD and use code STRONGPOD to get an additional 30% off. Your skin and hair will thank you. Obviously, the first 50K of any of these super long races, essentially, we're feeling amazing. There's nothing going wrong in these. And well, I shouldn't say that because it was like 4 miles into Cocodona when I started getting blisters. But for the most part, like spirit is high.
Yeah.
The mental game that you got going on is at its strongest. And I kind of want to hang on here for our listeners because this is like really powerful for you because I know that you started encountering some problems very early on, which is 60 miles into a 240-mile race. To put it in perspective, that's not even halfway through. But kind of take us through the way that you broke this race down. We often hear the best way to eat an elephant is in bites, just one bite at a time, right? And so this is an elephant of a race. It's massive. And so as you start this race and you're working through those first few miles, which you just want to be off the road and you want to be out of sight, people you're still being tracked for like the first 4 or 5 miles of that course. You can see the highway, right? And you're working up those switch packs, and as soon as you kind of break into the
first climb,
isn't the best? You're like, now I can settle in.
Truly God's country.
Yes.
That area in Moab, it's incredible.
Beautiful. Yeah. Take us into that, like just where you are. And as far as your mind goes, what are you working through? How are you breaking down the sections of the course?
Yeah, I think it was just, I was trying to take it day by day, but which eventually led to hour by hour, minute by minute, step by step. Like it was, the deterioration.
It turns into survival at the end.
The deterioration of the digestible pieces, So it was just, I was focusing on first day. I knew I'm just going to go easy. It was hot. So I knew I just need to not push it too hard. I just need to cruise. I wasn't in first place.
You're great in the heat, Max.
Yeah, no, I really
A lot of people suffer because I was tracking the race and I saw people that are typically strong that...
Some people almost died. Like my friend Andy Glaze, he got really, really bad heat stroke.
It scared me.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine too. And I couldn't believe that. And as we both know, he was ready to come back for revenge on that course because he had a very unfortunate fall the year before.
At mile 200.
At mile 200. So Eli, did you meet?
Yep. Eli he actually came to my premiere of the film.
He did?
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm so bummed I wasn't able to get out to it. But Eli is great. Yeah. Both those guys, the way they train is just incredible. But the heat, we've talked about this. You do very well in heat. It's a strength that you have.
Yeah.
I will say it's actually an element that a lot of people fear.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier to put on a layer, right? When you're in the cold, you're like, dude, you're if you're freezing in the cold, it's your fault.
But you can't escape the heat.
But the heat is very difficult. Yeah. So kind of go from there with the heat. And
so there were things that I was doing to mitigate I do really well in the heat, so I'm lucky in that regard. But I still had, before the race even started, I had an ice bandana on. The first aid station, I stopped and took extra time to put more ice in my ice bandana.
Wise.
I was every aid station, I was drenching my whole body in water. And these were things that I learned from running these really hot races. I just need to stay wet. I need to run a little bit more conservative and just slow down and focus on keeping myself drinking a lot of fluids. And I just kind of like coasted through that first day one.
So your focus was taking care of yourself.
Yeah,
so you knew that is, there's so much wisdom in that. I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of rookies know to do that.
Right.
The idea that I need to stay cool is like, I'll throw some water on my head here and there. But what you did in the beginning, every single aid station, whenever you could, ice, cooling down, slowing down.
All adds up.
That's a pro right there.
It all adds up. And that's just what I had learned. And I was like, I knew, I don't want to sell myself short and say I'm not the greatest athlete, but I pride myself in I'll be the hardest worker and the most prepared. I might not be the fittest, but I'm going to do everything else like as perfect as I can. Like I'm so meticulous about the preparation and the planning and the training that when I do show up, it's like all of these little things, all of the small things add up to a great performance. And it's like, if you neglect one aspect of, say, your hydration, if you don't have your electrolytes correctly balanced, like that'll ruin an entire race. Or if you don't take care of your feet properly, like that could really ruin it. I'm sure which we'll get into. But the first day was like pretty mellow and chill. And I got into the first night and it was at mile 60 where I popped my shoes off and I had really, really bad blisters.
And where were those blisters?
On my toes. Yeah, on my
toes.
Oh
gosh. So our runners right now that have experienced blisters, the toes, I mean, our feet, the nerve endings that are in our feet just anyway, and how thin the skin is.
Yeah.
I think you and I had said before this podcast, it's so frustrating because when we think of injuries for runners, it's like the ripped hamstring, it's the IT band, it's the Achilles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the intense pain of a blister, it's annoying how intense it is and how much it can affect your mental state.
Right. It really eats away at your spirit.
Yes.
When you're dealing with blister. Yeah. So it was
it the sand? I mean, that's one of the fine sand and
it was the sand
environment out there.
So I hadn't taken enough time to, and I mean, like, I'm still learning. Like I'm taking what I learned from having foot issues at Moab, and when I run Cocodona, I'm going to try things a little bit differently. Like maybe wear different socks, or maybe wear different shoes, or do whatever. I have a plan, and I'm actually right now in my training working it out, trying to figure out, hey, does this work better? Or does this work better? So yeah, it was tough, but I wasn't gonna let it get the best of me. So I addressed the blisters. One of the medics there, I wish I knew her name, but she like really took care of me. Popped these blisters, taped them up, and I continued on my way. And I actually took the lead in the race for the next like 100 miles.
At that 60 was like the Island A station.
Yeah.
Or
So
something?
Just before that, I took the lead and I led for like the next 100 miles and ran through the night. My plan was to not sleep on night one. I was like, if I can my biggest fear was getting to a point where I did want to sleep and not being able to. So I figured if I just stayed up through that first night, which I ran through 2 nights at TDS. So I knew, hey, if I can just make it through this first night, when I do stop to sleep, it'll make it a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. And
was it Thor that fixed your feet? She's iconic in the 200s as one of the medical.
Oh my gosh, I wish I knew.
She's amazing, sure. Blonde hair. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It was dark. Yeah. It was.
So you went before you slept. We're talking. It was like 36 hours. Do you think? So you went through the first night. How long was it before you slept?
So I didn't sleep until night 2. So mile 140. So at the road 46 aid station, I slept for the first time. So right before that.
Okay, yes.
Right before that long dirt.
The marathon.
It's the flat dirt section.
Yeah, which you can hammer in. So you just crawled into a car.
40 minutes, took a nap, woke back up. And when I came into that aid station, it was the first time, that Monticello Lake, that downhill, the really rocky road, the super downhill.
Yes.
That started destroying my toes. It started destroying my quads. It was like, that was the section where
feeling this.
Yeah, where things really started to fall apart. So day 2, it was another just really hot day, but there was a lot of like climbing up Shea Mountain. So I was moving a little bit slower.
You're getting higher in altitude now too.
Yeah, I mean, us living here at the beach, we're at a
Yeah.
major disadvantage
Yeah.
when it comes to altitude. But
Mhm.
I was just, I was still in a good spot. I was moving decently well, even though I was in quite a bit of pain. I was switching shoes out. I had a pretty decent section moving through Shea Mountain, even though once I get up to 10,000 feet, it's like I feel like my power lines in my body just get constricted. It's like there's no go anymore in my legs when I get up that high. But
well, you're very deep into the race at this point too.
Yeah, more than
so
100 miles
you're
in.
dealing with thin air.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have to keep in mind, like, there is the elements, I think, are often overlooked with when you're constantly being beat up by the elements, exposure, wind, it wears on you.
Oh, yeah.
Physically, mentally, in ways that we don't really understand. And then on top of it, you haven't, you're not sleeping.
Everything
Normally
compounds.
it compounds.
Yeah.
And I think that what you had said earlier about you're going to come in as the hardest worker and the most prepared, the further the distance, that actually is
the more that matters. Yeah.
Is the most important. If you are a pro at being able to get all the logistics, the details, and handle and just kind of be
or having someone to handle that for you.
Someone, right.
No, I got someone.
Yeah. I think that, you don't have to worry about that stuff in a marathon. It's like you need a couple gels and like know which aid stations you take fluid from. But like the further you go, no one cares if you can run a sub 6 minute mile.
Right.
That's not what it's about. If your feet are ripped to shreds and you're puking up all of your nutrition, you're either not making it to the finish line or it's going to be crawling to the finish line. So, so your feet are ripped up right now.
So bad.
What were you doing? Like, let's just talk like in a very logistical way. Are we wearing Injinji socks? Are you wrapping up? What kind of tape are you using? Like, what are you doing?
So in the beginning, from the start to mile 100 or 112 or whatever that Shea Mountain aid station is, I had pre-taped my toes and then I wore just normal socks.
And why did you do that? Who taught you to pre-tape? Is this just like kind of watching and listening to what other people are doing?
It was a huge mistake that I had made. I thought that because I was going to be running for so long that I needed that protection on my toes, and I taped certain toes if they had an issue, like during a race, or if I had a blister, I would just tape it up to go for a run, but I never taped all of my toes. So I feel like the tape may have just gotten loose and like the tape is kind of what caused the blisters. So just me being scared of the distance, I just never do something brand new that you've never done in training in a race. Like that's like rule number one.
But it is hard in that distance.
Right.
Because when in training, are you going to go run 140 miles?
You're not going to.
I mean, that's still 100 miles short of the actual distance you're doing. So a lot of times when we tell athletes, or when I was doing online coaching, I would say like practice what you do in the race, right? And you are correct. Don't try something new. But a lot of these problems, they come way late in the race.
There's no way to predict what's going to happen. So yeah, I had tape on my toes and then just normal socks, and then when I got the blisters, they retaped with Leuco tape.
Did you take all that tape off, or is it too painful? Were they part of your toes at this point?
So I got to the Shea Mountain aid station, and I was the Leuco tape they had popped my blisters and taped them up, but the blisters had refilled underneath the Leuco tape. So it was like the most crazy amount of pressure in my toe with the blister that's being held under the tape. So the tape isn't moving, and I just have this crazy feeling in my toes. So I was like, I need to get this tape off now. Like, we just need to address my feet,
or else my toe's gonna fall off.
Yeah, which I swear to you,
insane,
I
Max.
swear to you, I felt like there was a chance that I could lose my pinky toe. Like which I didn't. My toes are fine, but in the moment, I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. So I get into that aid station. I'm like, we need to take all of this Leuco tape off, and I just need to retape it.
So how painful was that? Because
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10
pain.
Peeling really, really sticky Leuco tape off of a blister, and it's pulling the skin off of this like It's the most excruciating pain. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos like all over my body, and the pain of dealing with that blister was more painful than any tattoo
You've just
I've ever
confirmed
gotten.
my pain in ways that no one else can.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few people that understand this.
Yeah. Like, you don't even want to like believe power, like think power into it, you know? Like, if I start dwelling on how bad my feet hurt, it's just going to make my feet hurt worse. It's like, I was really focusing at that point on trying to distract myself. So it was, that next section, it was the first time I picked up my crew. So I had a pacer, my friend, Spooky Lukey, and he's just a great dude. And he was able to just distract me. Like, I had been solo for the entire race up until this
point. Did they
point.
retape your feet though?
Yeah, they did. And I put toe socks on, which was a much better decision.
Okay,
and
so
I changed my shoes, different shoes. So it was a nice little reset. And I was like, okay, they don't hurt. I mean, it was just the pressure that I was feeling in my toe that I needed relief. And after that, I mean, they still hurt really bad, but it was bearable.
Because there's people listening that get chronic blisters. Now, I do believe, part of my coaching certification, we had this amazing foot doctor that came out. This is many, 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 many years ago when I was starting my coaching business. And one of the things that he talked about, which was so fascinating to me, was that we genetically have different types of elasticity in our skin. And a lot of times more of us are predisposed to blisters. So that's why, some of your friends might get them in a 10K and a half marathon. They always get them. So this is very valuable to people that are listening. You have come into the aid station, your feet are wrecked. They've just now ripped all this tape off of
and skin
off of your feet. What was the next step then to take care of those? Is it, okay, now we're going to wrap them back up and put fresh socks on? I mean, it's not like suddenly all the pain was gone.
Right.
What are they doing now to help you get to the finish line?
Yeah, it was just redoing the tape that was on the most problem areas of my toes. So retaping them and then putting toe socks on, which going back, I would have started with toe socks from the beginning and not taped and just...
In Gingy?
No, Satisfy makes them toe socks. So they're merino. Yeah, they're merino toe socks. So I put those on and I wore those actually for the rest of the race. So, and a change of shoes, I wore a little bit wider of a toe box, a more comfortable shoe, which the shoe that I switched into, I should have just worn for the entire race. I got caught up in, I want this shoe for this certain terrain and this is carbon plated and this is a technical climb. So I want this shoe. And
I see people do that.
Right.
And I see people do that Western States. They hit those last 40 miles and they put on carbon plated shoes.
But in a 240 miler, it's like you're not saving that much time. It's
not the same as 100.
Focus on taking care of your feet and being in, now I know the most comfortable shoe for me would have been the best decision. So I then got into those shoes and I was able to continue on and
You have a pacer.
I have a pacer. Things are turning around. It's like, again, I just started to feel different as soon as things started to change a little bit, you know, and I got a little bit of hope like, hey, I'm moving well. I just need to keep moving forward. I just need to keep going. And the pain, it comes and goes, you know, sometimes you'll be thinking about it and other times you'll be like, oh, I didn't even think about my feet. Now they hurt, you know, now that I'm thinking about them. But I just continued on and came into the next aid station, switched out my pacer and then had that really tough descent into Monticello, or after the Monticello Lake aid station, slept my first sleep, then had a really good section on that road 46, the long dirt 50K or marathon or whatever it is.
It's like 27 and a half miles, something like that.
Oh my gosh, I always mix up the...
I know that I'm envisioning that aid station in my head.
There's like 15 to... Maybe that is... Okay, so that is road 46. So yeah, sorry.
I wish I remembered the name of it because that was a turning point for me in that race. That's
after Monticello Lake, Dry Valley.
Yes.
Dry Valley.
Yeah, because then you're going to start ascending into thin air.
So it goes Dry Valley and then Road 46 where those two, you cross over the two roads. Yep. So I had slept at Dry Valley, a decent sleep, and then I came into Road 46 and I picked up Matt and I slept another 40 minutes. So I was kind of getting these little sleeps that were just like restorative enough to bring my legs back. Like,
wait, Matt
Shapiro.
Oh my gosh, that's right. So Matt is amazing. Shout out to Matt Shapiro.
Yeah.
He was on our Mammoth project. He's
amazing
done a few things with him.
Yeah,
but you guys, I mean,
we went through the La Salles together.
Yes, he's incredible. Yeah. What a bright light to have with you as a pacer at that point in the race, because that's like you still have, is it 80 miles left at that point?
I think it was 60.
60 miles left at that point.
Yeah.
That's a hard section.
Really hard. That was the crux of my race was that section.
It's a very difficult.
You get back up to 10,000 feet.
I think you start working up to 11, or maybe once you hit 200, you get.
Shea Mountain is the highest.
Oh, okay.
And then the La Salles get almost to the same height, but I believe it breaks 10,000 again.
Okay.
So, I was with Matt. The terrain in the La Salles is like really, really tough because it's like it's pretty steep climbs. It's these winding switchbacks going up the mountain. The ground is like loose rock covered in aspen leaves, so you don't really ever know what you're.
And you're like
on.
inside the forest.
Yes,
you kind of.
I mean, it was cool. It was like kind of eerie. Like I don't know. It was really rad. I ended up taking my first like trail nap in that section where I just like, laid down on the ground and went out for 5 minutes. Crazy.
And that was only
experience.
The second time that you decided to sleep. So you did 40 minutes once,
and then again at Road 46 and before I picked up Matt.
Okay, how long was that?
So 40 minutes. So I'm at an hour and 20 of total sleep for the race.
That's
and then
amazing.
Hit another 5 minutes, so hour 25. And
how's your stomach? Can I just pause you there? How are you eating at this time?
I've never really struggled with stomach issues, so that's another like thing I feel really lucky. Yeah, it's a gift. I have an iron stomach, so I can eat anything. Like I was just eating anything and everything. I think I nailed like almost like 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates per hour. No, never.
Amazing.
Never thrown up in a race.
Especially with the change in altitude and from the heat to the cold at night.
Right.
Altitude. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I got really lucky. I was just eating a lot of gels.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot
Real
of
food ever? Is there anything that you kind of leaned into?
Yeah, I actually made my own gels with like pureed banana and sweet potato, honey.
Love
There's
it.
these like little
real food.
Right, real food. I was having some bowls, and then when I got to the oh my gosh, what aid station
was it? With the 200
the
mile
Geyser
mark?
Pass? Yeah, once I got to the Geyser Pass aid station, my mom had brought this
Your
chicken.
mom was there.
Yeah, my mom came out. I had a crew of like 10 people. Like my crew was so deep.
So was Mackenzie your crew chief?
Mackenzie was my crew chief.
Okay.
I had 3 friends. My friend Crunchy, his name's Mark Contreras. He came out. My friend Billy Garner, who also came out, and then this guy Spooky Lukey, who I actually met on TikTok.
Really?
Yeah. So
he
came out and met me. All amazing people. They were my pacers, and then
Mama.
Yeah, I had my mom.
I
had
that.
2 filmers who were filming the whole thing, and a photographer.
Who were your creatives out there with you?
And Matt Shapiro, who was my last pacer.
Yeah, Matt's amazing. So he did some GoPro as you moved along.
Yeah, he had one of those Osmo cameras.
Oh, those are awesome.
Yeah.
So those are great.
He was helping document. Everyone was like taking iPhone clips, which actually end up in the film. Tyler Wolter.
Those are my favorite. I'll just be honest. They're so intimate.
Yeah.
And real.
They're the funny. I think some of the funniest moments of the film.
Oh yeah, they're like shaky and like
and my friends are really funny people, so their commentary was just it's added.
I can't wait to see this film.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I can't wait to send it to you. So and then my friend Alex Lopez, who was shooting photos, and Cole Becker, who was like the B camera film video guy. So. Yeah, it's a big crew.
You had a big crew.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a big crew of support. You had pacers. You had people documenting this. You come in, you're at the mile 200 aid station. You know, as you leave that, there's those big switchbacks that you hit. You're up in the aspens at the top. Tell us how you're feeling, because I think the vast majority of our listeners, I mean, running 100 miles is incredible. Running 200 miles is almost unthinkable. But when you hit the 200 mile aid station, you still have
40 miles to go.
40 miles to go.
And not an easy 40
and
miles.
It is not an easy 40 miles. Yeah, take us from there.
So, and this is kind of the climax of the film, is at the mile 200 aid station. By this point, I've dropped back to second place. So I think I lost my lead at the Dry Valley aid station. Harry had gained the lead from me.
While you were sleeping, or was it just kind of he passed?
Yeah, he came into the aid station a couple minutes behind me. We both slept for around 30 to 40 minutes. And then my crew woke me up and was like, hey, he's going. You should go with him. So I went with him, and I stayed pretty close to him, but he started to take off after that long
He's trying to pull
section.
a pass gap berry on you type thing, trying to gap you.
Well, he did pass gap and bury me. So by the time we got to mile 200, he was 15 miles ahead of me.
Oh my!
He left Geyser Pass 5 hours in front of me.
Okay, with only 40 miles left, someone that is 15 miles ahead of you,
it's almost an impossible
you're right.
feat to overcome.
It's insanely difficult.
Yeah.
And Max, maybe we can pause here and help
Mhm.
people understand that we're seeing people put out really fast times in the 100-mile distance. We're seeing, elite men. They're doing anything between 13 and 16 miles in mountain races and these mountain courses in the 100-mile distance. I have said over and over again, 200-mile distances, this new category, I don't think it even should be called an ultra. It's an epic because it is not 2 100-mile races back to back.
No.
It's not.
No.
And the further you go, the ability to even move at 3.5 miles an hour, that's fast. That's very difficult. So someone that's 15 miles ahead of you with 40 miles to go, historically, we look at the analytics, you're not catching that person.
No way. And I had my toughest section was through that La Salle section. I think there were times when I was moving less than 2 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
It took me, I think 14 or 15 hours to go 15 miles. No, like, what was that? 30 miles. So it took me a really long time. I had a really rough section. And then.
And by the way, you guys, he got the course record. So just to further help people understand how difficult this distance is, your pace was still very fast. Your overall pace was incredible for 240 miles. So we're talking about you've had shredded feet since mile 60. You have been buried by now first place. Harry's ahead of you by 15 miles.
And I'm worried about third place at this point because we've been 20 miles ahead of third place, and now I'm wondering how far is he? And he's only 10 miles behind me now.
And reception isn't coming in as well. We sometimes we rely on those trackers and 200s. It's pretty fun. Your pacers come in and they're like, hey, they checked in at this point. But because of the varied terrain, the cover in the forest, going up and down to high altitude, those trackers don't always update properly. What people at the aid stations are telling you isn't always, right.
Accurate,
I'll tell you what, when I came into that section, both second and third were gnawing at my heels. They were only a couple miles behind me. So, but even then, 3 miles is over an hour.
Yeah.
And so you're like, dude, I have over an hour. 15 miles. This is unbelievable.
Right.
This is unbelievable. So you're moving through, you leave that aid station, you know that third place is also trying to catch you. And what inside you even made you think? Because mentally you're very tired. Physical tiredness is so far beyond gone. Like that's not even a thing anymore because you're having an outer body experience. It is your mind that is keeping you going. What made you think that you could chase down first place?
Because it was the only shot I had left, When I did leave that aid station, I was moving well. Like I had a really good stop where I got a good amount of sleep. I ate this. Oh my God. It tasted like the best chicken cheese quesadilla that I'd ever had. It had this like Chipotle sauce on it.
Life to the bones.
Right. I got a new pair of shoes on that were actually my really good, comfortable shoes. My legs had just been so beat up coming into each aid station that after I would sleep, my legs would I actually feel like my legs are coming back a little. I just needed my legs to come back. And I got a message from Cam Haynes, it was just this very, very inspirational message that just lit a fire in me. And
Cam's so great.
Yeah. And
he sent me a message when I did Tahoe.
So cool. Yeah. He's the best.
He's the best.
So I feel like he was the catalyst to what inspired me to just
keep hammering.
Yeah, keep hammering. Like the Hail Mary that I had.
Why not?
Right. It was my only option at that point.
Why not?
And I went alone for the last 40 miles, which was a call that Mackenzie had made. For some reason, well, I understand now why they forced me to go alone, but I was planning on having Matt continue on with me, and they were like, if you want to win this race, you need to go alone.
I did that at Tahoe.
Yeah. Because
there's something, it's hard to explain.
There's something about having a pacer with you where you can almost dish off the responsibility on that. You know, it's
the navigation, the energy, they distract you.
Yeah.
But is that distraction always positive?
Yeah. They kind of dictate the pace, which is great for certain times. But when it's all coming down to me, I had to be alone. And I left that aid station, and there was some nice downhill and some nice
Yep.
dirt road, and which led to Blacktop Road, which was all downhill. And I started moving really, really well. I ran some of my
So
fastest.
there's 40 miles left.
This is 40 miles left. Yeah. And
the aid stations, though, I don't know if they moved them. Are the aid stations still 20 miles apart right there?
Yeah. Yeah. So I start running really well on this downhill road, and I start hitting some of my fastest splits of the race.
Gosh, amazing.
So I'm running like 9-minute pace, like I
Amazing.
think down even into the 8s. And I check the tracker, and I see that when I first left the aid station, you finally get service. I check 15 miles. I'm like, I need to just try to get some of this, close some of this gap that he has on me. Yeah, I just need to close some of this distance. So I was like, I'm just going to run as hard as I can, and I'll check the tracker again and see how much.
So there's just belief here. This is just this choice of,
it's not over.
Why not go for it? It's not over till it's over. I haven't crossed the finish line yet. The story
Anything
is not
can
yet.
happen.
The story is still being written, and you're thinking about the story that you want to tell.
Yeah, which is exactly what Cam had said to me. He was like, "This is like, what story do you want to tell? You're right there at the end of Moab 240. Like, you're in second place. What do you want your legacy to be? Like, this is it, man. Like, go for it." And I did. And I checked the tracker 15 miles. I run really hard for about an hour. I checked the tracker again. I'm 11 miles behind him.
Wow. In 1 hour, you ate up 4 miles.
Yeah. So he had stopped. So he had been stopping. When I would stop to sleep, he just continued on through. So he got all this distance on me. And then towards the end, I was starting to make up some of this distance back. I was just getting restorative sleeps. And I think he kept having to stop on the trail and take these little dirt naps, which in the end, it's all strategy, like what works.
It's so true.
Yeah. So, I just kept going, and I keep checking the tracker, and he's moving really slow. And then he keeps stopping, and I'm like, this is an opportunity for me. I need to just keep going as hard as I can, just really, really dig deep and try to maybe possibly, I don't know, catch him. Like, I don't know if 15 miles or 11 miles is enough time to make up this gap by the time we finish. Like, if he takes off again with a fire, like, there's no way I'm going to be able to catch him. But I kind of just got lucky that he was just kept moving slow, kept stopping. And then I'm 7 miles out from the aid station, and he's like still at the aid station. And then I'm 5 miles out from Porcupine Rim, and he had just left the aid station, but he's moving like 1 mile an hour. So I'm like, oh, I know he's walking. Like, I just need to keep moving. And
so so in those 20 miles, you get to the aid station, and you've made 10 miles up on him.
I think more. I think it was probably, I had gained 12 miles.
So when you left the aid station, Porcupine, which is the last aid station till the finish,
he was only 3 miles ahead of me.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I was just running possessed. I was so determined to just at least try to give it my all and see if it was even possible for me to make up this gap.
And Max, it's not like you have fresh legs. It's not like that your feet have healed.
Right. And mind you, this guy that I'm racing against is one of the greatest 200-mile runners like ever. Like, he ran, I'm pretty sure he won the Triple Crown plus Cocodona. So he won Cocodona last year, I'm blanking on what his result was at Tahoe, but it was really good. It was a podium result, podium, or maybe it was 4th place at Bigfoot. And then now I'm racing him at Moab, and I've never ran a 200-miler, and this is a super experienced 200-mile specialist. Yeah. So, I mean, all respect to Harry. He's just the man. Super, super nice guy and incredible athlete. So, yeah, I mean, knowing that as well, I'm like, I don't know if this is possible, but
what are they telling you in the aid station? As you go into that aid station, he's 3 miles ahead of you. Are people rooting for you?
Cheering.
Or are they
cheering?
Like, get him, Max!
Yes. So I'm blanking on his name, but there's a guy who sent me a message. He actually filmed me leaving that aid station, and he was like my biggest cheerleader, like coming through. I stopped for I didn't even stop. I just filled up a water bottle. I was maybe stopped for 30 seconds, and I just blew through that aid station. Yeah.
Wow.
And
did you have this renewed belief? Were you like, I think I can do this?
Yes. Well, every mile that I was gaining was like, oh my God, I'm closer and closer to this thing. Like, maybe it's giving me a little bit more hope, a little bit more inspiration. And with that, I'm like pushing harder, digging deeper. And it was, when you have that type of adrenaline, is a crazy,
it is.
drug where
adrenaline junkies is, I mean, it's
but the adrenaline, you don't feel pain when you have adrenaline. It's like all of my pain had disappeared. I was running. I didn't even notice my feet at this point. I'm just moving so well, running my fastest splits of the race, like
amazing.
200 plus miles in, 220 plus miles in. And a couple miles out of that aid station, I caught him, and he was sleeping off in the bushes.
So he didn't even see you go by?
No, I saw his pacer.
Oh, so his pacer let him know. I was like, can you imagine? He wakes up and he doesn't even know that you've passed him. Right. What was his, I mean, these are the interactions I remember when Billy and I took third place at Tahoe. Yeah. And we were really sensitive to passing. And I had told him, I was like, I go, Billy, she's been, and her pacer had been watching us, because it was at night, it was in the middle of the night. And you know how headlamps work, that you see that headlamp get closer and closer and closer. And so the way that the course was, it was like, we're on this mountain and it took us like 45 minutes to an hour. I know it as a lifelong athlete, it's crushing. Yeah. It's very crushing. But I also know that in that moment is actually where you have to turn on the speed and the burners and just go. But I am curious, because the pacers are very much into the race, and they're very much connected with their runners. I mean, because this is a multi-day event, everyone is exhausted, everyone is invested, and we want the best for our runner. And pacers feel it. Yeah, they do. Totally. They feel the when their runner gets past, because they're up close watching their whole race. So, what was that like as you came upon Harry?
Yeah, I mean, we had been going back and forth the entire race. He was leading in the beginning, and then I led, and then he took the lead, and now I'm catching him and about to take the lead. And I know that situation that he's in, you know, I just I made sure I stopped, and I wanted to show respect. Like, I asked if they needed anything, if everything was okay. And unfortunately, I didn't see Harry. I told his pacer, like, I wish I could give him a hug right now, but I didn't want to wake him up. And
that's very sweet of you, because that's probably what separates ultras. I don't think we necessarily always have to do that. I think the exchange of words is so powerful, you know, like, you're doing great.
I just have so much respect for him and anyone in that situation who's gone that far, that it was the only option for me.
That's incredible.
So I made sure I stopped and knew everything was okay. And then I continued on by myself, and just because of the terrain, like, I couldn't see his headlamp, and I don't think they could see me, just because.
What time of day is this right now?
It's still in the middle of the night.
Okay,
or like super early morning, maybe like 3 or 4 a.m. Yeah. And I pass him, and I continue on, and I ran really hard for a while, and then I kept checking the tracker to make sure he wasn't gaining on, and it was like I was kind of running away with it at that point.
When you were navigating this, because I feel like a lot of that section looks the same. Yeah, like, you're kind of like, when is this going to end?
Yeah, it's like getting closer? Jeep, off-road Jeep 4x4 trail,
and a lot of it looks the same. You keep on descending,
back and forth.
Yes, yeah. How was navigating for you? Because mentally, we're not as acute as we are at the beginning of the race.
And delirious.
Yeah. And so are you just like checking the map, making sure that you're on course?
So I had gotten lost a few times during the race. So that last section, I was like very diligent. I think I had my phone in my hand the whole time, because my watch had died, and I was just like glued to my phone to make sure I was on the correct path. And then once it started to get light out, you can kind of see where you're going. So it was a little bit easier. And I had gotten quite a bit of a lead on him, so I ended up slowing down with maybe 5 or 6 miles from the finish. And that's kind of when I knew I was going to win it. And I just started crying. It was like the sun was coming up. It was the morning coming back into Moab. I'm by myself, and I'm just crying.
Max, you come off of that dirt, you go into that little tunnel and the bike path that's there. I almost want to say it's the iconic bike path, because as racers, we dream of that bike path. We know about it, even though if we haven't done it, we know
you see
that
it on the live stream.
You see it on the live stream, and you've seen it in years past. And people talk about the bike path. Like, as soon as you see that bike path, it's like this bird, like, you can breathe.
And there's cars driving on the path, and they're honking, and everyone's cheering. Yeah, it's incredible.
And it's like, it's a terrain that you can actually relax into, or you pick up the pace if you want to, but it's like you're smelling the finish line. The sun is starting to rise.
There's people base jumping off the cliffs.
It's
Seriously.
so true. Yeah, because it's a very outdoor, it's a destination place.
Yeah.
Moab's beautiful. But what I love about this finish for you is that you had this incredible crew of people that supported you throughout. And whether that was helping, get your nutrition together, getting your bottles together, it's words of encouragement, it's pacing you through the night. At some point, that whole team said, Max, in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve, you have to go alone.
Yeah. But at the same time, what I did alone, it was like the entire race leading up to that, it took a village. And it was like, I was just so grateful that I was able to bring it home, like the win for my team and for my hometown, like bring it home for Orange County. Like it was, I was shocked. And to be honest with you, the subsequent days following, like I was in a crazy disassociated out of body state in my mind, just from pushing so hard and not. I mean, I didn't sleep a solid night of sleep for probably 5 days after the race.
We can talk a little bit more about that. I think that's something that isn't. There's a few people in the 200s that I've discussed that with, because I'm like, I think there's this part of this distance that people need to understand that is weird and sometimes even scary.
But
like
finishing was like,
finishing, you coming. So let's go back to your finish. So you're coming down this bike path again, kind of understanding that there are moments when we're pursuing a goal where it does feel lonely, and there are at the end of the day, only we can achieve. No one can achieve things for us. The value and the gift that we have to have friends and people that support us it's like gold, and it's rare. And we do need people. We do need that community. We do remember that even though running can feel very solitary, when people build us up and remind us of the goals that we're doing and what we're pursuing, and like, your work is worth it. And I'm just imagining how many times Mackenzie supported you and gave you those words of love and encouragement as you were training and missing out on social events and putting in so many hours. And maybe at times you're like, is this worth it? Like, I don't know, is this out of balance? Like, what am I doing? And it's like, and then even though you have, pacers who can stay with you, everyone knows who you are.
Yeah.
Everyone understands what you've worked for. Everyone believes in what you're capable of. And what that is, Max, is that you need to step out and run the last 40 miles by yourself.
Yeah. And
further, really just instilling that confidence that what you set out to do originally, it can be achieved. And I think it's really beautiful that you finished in that way. I think it's beautiful that you had a team that trusted you, that knew that what you were capable of, even though you were beyond tired, emotionally, physically, mentally, all the things. They knew what you were capable of doing. And that was chasing somebody down in the last 40 miles that was 15 miles ahead of you. I know a lot of people, even at the elite level, that would be like, dude, that's so far. Like, hey, let's kind of relax and enjoy second place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still getting on the podium. I'm doing everything that I want to do here.
Right.
Like, you could have given
still would have been an amazing result.
All the things that we still would have been like stoked for you for. Like, dude, you're a newbie to us. First time you did it. Like, amazing. You got second place. That's unreal. But I think that fire inside of you, that enthusiasm that you have to be the best, to be Max, and it's to be great.
Yeah. And I think that's just part of everything that I've learned throughout my life. Like, I've been through so many hard things that, like, even when I'm in the middle of the hardest thing that I've ever done, I just know that I've been there before and I'm able to overcome. And just crossing the finish line was just so validating to just know that all my hard work over the last year wasn't for nothing. It was all meant to be. It was celebrating my hard work that I had put in. And it was just an incredible thing having all my friends and family there, like, just so emotional. Everyone's crying, and it was just amazing. It was just such an amazing moment, like one of the best moments of my entire life, for sure.
It was a joy to follow you. I'll tell you this, and I think I had said this to Matt at some point, because I was following along this, especially following like your accounts. Your crew did a great job. Your creative team did a great job documenting it. Whether it was the humor, the humorous side, and us being able to see your personality come out. But I will say that your finish, it was emotional.
Yeah.
And you did a post saying this is like the greatest day of my life. Like my life is forever changed. And
exactly.
I kind of want you to maybe expand on that a little bit. What did that mean to you? When you're saying my life has changed, it's like the greatest day. I think a lot of people we have, very these apex moments in our life where we feel like, wow, it's a turning point for me. But what was that for you?
I think it was just validation that I can achieve anything I set my mind to. Like even if it's, on the biggest stage, the toughest races in the world, like it was just confirmation that I can do this and I deserve to be here and I belong. And I think that was just the most important thing, that I've won one of the biggest 200-mile races. And it's like I'm no one knows. I mean, people might know me now, but I was essentially this unknown person that my first shot at a 200-miler I won, which is, I mean, just incredible. I'm like, I feel so lucky, that I even get to do these things, Yeah.
I love, I said this earlier, the first time I talked to you on the phone, I get this joy and enthusiasm from you. And I love you have a really beautiful blend of humility and confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so important that those things go hand in hand, because all too often, I think the term humility, people confuse it with this idea that we're supposed to put ourselves down, that we can't talk about the strength that we have, that we can't talk about our big pie in the sky goals because we sound too pompous. Or if we talk about, I really believe I can do that, people are like, oh, they're so proud of themselves. It's like, no, that isn't it at all. I think that it is important that we do love ourselves and love the life that we have, and that we do things with all our heart to the best of our ability. And I think the humility comes in this strong desire to want to learn. See, exactly. I think pride comes when, everything will always go my way and it's always going to be smooth sailing because I know everything and I'm the best of everyone and I can never be beat.
That's what'll bite you in the ass.
Yeah, exactly. That's pride. But to enter something with like, I really believe I can do this and I do deserve to be here. I did put in the work.
Yeah.
Yes, more of that. But I think that what is so cool that is that in the same breath, you're always like, I want to learn more. I want to know what else I'm capable of doing.
There's always more to learn. There's always more to learn. And what's possible, you're never truly going to find what's possible because you can always do a little bit better, like no matter what. So yeah, I mean, just remaining teachable is, synonymous with being humble. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love this victory for you. I'm very, very excited to see your film. We are going to continue to push out your film when the public is allowed to see it. I know we'll release that link. Kind of pivoting to the days after, those 5 days after, the recovery from a 200 is like no other. And it is weird.
Yeah.
I had to do that 4 times last year.
Crazy.
What were some of your symptoms that were different from when you did your first 100 even?
Yeah, I mean, different. I mean, it was mostly the state of mind that I was in. I felt like I was in this weird disassociated dream state where I was viewing my life from a third person perspective. Like it was strange, like just winning the race and the social media blow up that happened after and all these, I mean, hundreds of texts from all of my friends, messages on Instagram. Like I almost couldn't even read all of them. And seeing, I probably from being sleep deprived, I don't know exactly what it is that causes that, or just from exerting yourself for so hard for so long, and then not being able to sleep after not sleeping for 3 days already. It was just like, it was a really, really weird experience, and just like feeling sick and like the chronic fatigue. And it was just like, it's a whole nother beast of recovery that I had never experienced. And it was, I don't know how you could do that 4 times in a year. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. I would never say that any of my performances were incredible. And part of it is because I don't know how healthy it is.
I don't think
how healthy the Grand Slam is. Yeah. Honestly, I don't. And it makes sense why at the time that I completed, only 12 people had ever done it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with the year that I did it was that Tahoe 200 and Bigfoot were only 17 days apart. And I didn't talk about it a lot, but I was so far beyond wrecked standing at the start line of Moab. But it was interesting because I remember looking at Eddie and telling him, I go, there's literally nothing that I haven't been through that I don't believe that I can walk through in this race. And so kind of the same mindset that you had, I was like, I have nothing to lose. Like I'm so wrecked. And this whole year has been about testing the human limit. It is pretty amazing to see what we're capable of doing. So I think the confidence that you get from doing 200s is it opens up your mind to what is possible. You kind of come into this unstoppable state of mind where you're like, I can handle a lot of pain and a lot of discomfort and I can push for a long time. But I think the recovery of it is something that I think needs to be studied more, like in a legit way. I'm not just saying, hey, let's talk to some people, but I think scientifically what you're doing to your system, what you're doing to your mental state, all that sleep deprivation. Yeah, I think that it's still pretty new. I mean, it's in the last couple of years, it's really exploded. I mean, a lot more people want to do these 200s now. And, you know, it's people like you that are telling incredible stories around them. I really love your story,
Thank
Max. But I think that what you were feeling, the fog, this fogginess of 5 days straight, were you kind of just like sleeping when you could, odd hours, appetite all over the place, like trying to get calories in however you could?
Yeah, exactly that. It was on the way home, driving home in the car, I would sleep for 30 minutes and wake up and sleep for another 30 minutes. And then finally got home and sleep for another 30. It was like small little chunks. And I didn't sleep a 6-hour night for, I think, 4 or 5 days after the race.
That's amazing. So what were those days like? What were those 5 days like? Where you just wake up at 1 a.m. and be like eating?
Yep. Well, or not even have an appetite, just go downstairs and just sit on the couch and watch YouTube or Netflix or just
something to try and
just consume my time, hang out with my dogs. It was just
and work. I mean, did that affect work
so
too?
I took the rest of that week off. I mean, I took like 2 days
because it ends like on a Monday or Tuesday. So
I think I finished. I'm getting the days mixed up, but it was like 2 or 3 days where I was able to rest without going to work. And then I went back to work and everyone at work like knew what I had just done. So I think everyone was kind of leaving me alone, but I felt like I was very unproductive, pretty much worthless at work. And it was like, I slowly started to feel better. And I ended up getting connected with this place called Culture, shout out Culture OC, but they have hyperbaric chamber, they have red light therapy, they have sauna, they have this like brain tap, this mask with these lights and this kind of guided meditation thing. But I was like, I started going there every day, and I really feel like, I mean, hyperbaric especially.
Hyperbaric's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I go to O2 Health Club in Newport Beach.
Exactly. So, I feel like there are some things that you can do to speed up the recovery process and mitigate maybe some of those like crazy symptoms. But
and it's your system.
Yeah, it's your
not
entire
like,
system.
oh, my quads are sore.
Right,
it's like, it's your system.
My body had like my muscles really weren't that sore. Like even the next day, it was more so just the blisters on my feet healing. And then this like crazy chronic fatigue, like just this extreme fatigue, which was, lingered. I mean, I didn't feel 100% normal for probably a month after the race. Yeah.
I believe it.
A full month.
Yeah, where you really feel like yourself, where you really have that, and you kind of start to understand that when even like 2-3 weeks later, you go on a run and you're like, why is a 6-mile run just blast me? Like that felt hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I made sure I took it really easy. Like I was doing single mile. I mean, I had to run the next day. So I would still do a single mile. I couldn't even put shoes on. I'd go to the park and run in my socks in the grass in order to keep my running streak alive. Yeah. Which is, oh my gosh, I'm a nut job. But I was running 1 mile. And then I did a 2-mile run and then another 2 and then 3 and then slowly started building back. But it wasn't for a while until I really finally started feeling normal again. Yeah.
What was your, this is always a curiosity. I know my body weight was all over the place when I did the Grand Slam. I looked really terrible after I did the 2 in a row.
I was swollen, really swollen by the end of Moab. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Hands, feet, like, but then it drops and you can then see your rib cage after you get home from the race and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What was your appetite body mass? Like how did that fluctuate?
Totally
And
out of whack. Yeah,
yeah,
I don't really step on a scale too much, but
yeah, same.
by the time I finished, I mean, I really noticed it in like my hands and my face. Like I was just
Yeah.
holding on to water, which
Yep.
it does subside a couple days
Mhm.
later. But yeah, my appetite was all over the place. Really hungry, not that hungry, feeling sick,
Mhm.
feeling okay. It was just like everything was out of whack for a while,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
yeah, finally started feeling normal and was just right back to training. You know.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I kind of want to move on to that. So, you ended the year Moab 240 champion. You've accomplished more than you
Mhm.
could ever dream of
Yeah.
just in the year of 2024.
Mhm.
2024 was a very successful year for you. And
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, I
Thank
just
you.
need to say you are such an inspiration, not only just in who you are and how you've lived your life and what you've overcome, but just on this side of encouraging people to dream again.
Right.
And I think that people need to hear that.
Mhm.
It's okay to dream again. It's okay
Totally.
to imagine again and just to believe.
Mhm.
Knowing, I think in your instance, you're tackling these distances that you don't know anything about, but you are willing
Yeah.
to be a student. You're
Totally.
willing to potentially fail.
Mhm.
And but in your case, you're always coming out on top, Max.
Yeah,
Like it's
I'm
amazing.
willing to fail with cameras
Yeah.
documenting me, which is a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
it's a whole nother beast. Like what if I die and
Oh,
people are
yeah.
watching, you know? But yeah, it's
Absolutely.
been an amazing year. I'm like really, really just proud of myself and happy that I actually put in the work and showed up, and yeah, everything worked out. It was just incredible. And yeah, I think it's super important for people to continue to have challenges, continue to do hard things, continue to sign up for races and dream and work towards it's all like I really don't even think I love racing as much as I love preparing for the race and train. Like I'm obsessed with training. I love training. I love the process. I love the journey, and the race is kind of just a celebration of the hard work that you've put in, you know, like no matter the result, even just finishing, and hopefully you learn some things along the way. And that's just a bonus. Yeah.
Absolutely. So as you begin 2025, it's crazy that's January
Mhm.
2025 right now. What do you have your sights on for this year? I know that you and I have had, I mean, our conversations are
Yeah.
confidential. All the athletes that I mentor,
Mhm.
they're confidential, but overall we talk about goals and navigating and building a brand
Yeah.
and how to have hard conversations with
Yeah.
brands and how to have thick skin in
Mhm.
business. I mean, I've been in this space for a very long time, and you're very wise, Max. And some of the conversations that we've had, they really have been filled with what you're passionate about
Mhm.
and what it is that you want to do this year. So share as much as you want, but
Yeah.
what are you hoping to build this year, both in your racing and just in your brand?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I think I'm a 200 guy now.
Yeah.
So, so I'm,
You're
yeah,
hooked on the distance.
yeah,
You
yeah.
love it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have to at this
Do what
point.
you love.
It's so
Find what you
intriguing.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'm totally willing to be transparent about my races this year. So in a couple weeks, I'm running Black Canyon 50K, which is the shorter race at Black Canyon.
Training race.
Yeah. Just to do something faster, a little bit harder. And then, that'll kick off my build into Cocodona. So running Cocodona in May. And then because I won,
which is going to be the most competitive race there to date.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm very
The
excited.
most competitive 200 ever. The field is so
Yeah,
stacked. I mean,
I'm so glad you're going to be on that start line.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, a lot of my heroes that are running that race, which is just, I feel like so lucky. I'm going to be at least brushing shoulders with these people.
You're one of the heroes.
Yeah, well, thank you. And then I got a guaranteed entry from winning Sean O'Brien into AC 100.
Oh my gosh, let's pray that the fires.
I know. Wrightwood.
Yeah.
So our fires that we had 3 or 4 months ago burned Wrightwood, and then now the tragic LA fires just burned Altadena. So the start and the finish this last year has gotten burned. So I'm really, really hoping that the race, their course isn't too damaged and they're actually able to.
Iconic to us here in Southern California. I think it's a race that has not a lot of people know, but it is one of the hardest hundreds in the nation. It's not well marketed. I think that's why, but it's entirely at altitude, fully exposed, extreme heat, a ton of climbing and descending. It's a very, very difficult race. So you're doing that after Cocodona. 250, which is incredible.
And then, and then the final race of the year that I'm running is the Mammoth 200.
You are? Yes. Let's go. Let's go. I know we discussed this. I'm very happy about that. I know they're still finalizing permits to be able to say it's happening, but I know the registration.
My name's on the entrance list.
And there's a lot of great names on the entrance list
very
already.
Cool people running.
Yeah. So
super exciting.
I mean, I'm glad we're buddies. I got a lot of intel on that race. So
might have to pick your brain a little bit.
No, it's gonna be amazing.
And I'm just gonna try to document all of these races, just continue doing what I'm doing, making these films. I don't know how big of a production each one of them is going to be, but I'm going to do my best to at least tell a story around each race. So
you like creating.
I do. I'm a creative.
Yeah. You design clothes, which I know you had talked about wanting to come out with some personally branded merch that kind of aligns with some of these races you're doing, which I love that.
Yeah. So I have some King of Moab merch that will be dropping.
See the hat? Everyone that's watching on our video can see the King of Moab hat here.
This is just one of a couple different designs that I'll be dropping, but some t-shirts. I mean, for the film King of Moab, like I came up with the name, I did the art direction, I produced the entire film myself. Tyler Wolter, he was the director, and him and this other guy Cole Becker, who's another great camera operator, they edited the whole thing. It's just been this film has been a crazy learning experience for me, just learning the whole side of like creative and telling a story and just dealing with all the aspects of putting out a film. And I know I just did the premiere and people are itching to see when I'm going to be dropping the film. And it's kind of given me some insight and perspective. Like when you see people and you're like, why don't they just put it out? It's like, there's so much behind the scenes.
There's so much. Oh my gosh.
I would love to put it out. I would love to just put it out and have everyone see it. But
or when people think it, like as soon as the race is over, that it should come out within a few weeks. I'm like, are you joking me?
I'm working.
You have an appreciation for that. I love that.
I'm working as fast and as hard as I can to put it out as soon as possible. But it's looking like mid to late February it'll be out, which is about a month from now. So that's what we're kind of shooting for and hoping. And I don't have a solid date yet, but as soon as I have one, I'll be posting it online. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So we have you racing all year long. Your last race will be in September with Mammoth 200. You're looking to create some really cool content alongside of that. Anything else that you're excited about this year that you're kind of leaning into, whether in running or outside of running?
Yeah, it's my goals are just on these races that I have on the calendar and just continuing to put in the work and show up and try to do some cool, fun projects around documenting them, and hopefully people like them. But yeah, my main focus is just what's in front of me, which right now is Black Canyon 60K, or 50K. I think it's actually 60K, even though it's listed as a 50.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it's like 37 miles. Yeah. It's closer to 60K. But it's just my only focus is on what's in front of me. And hopefully we'll do some fun things.
I love that, Max. You have your priorities straight. You're focused on the goal. And I think that's so wise of you. I think it's easy sometimes to get caught up in a lot of different things that we like, or a lot of different priorities, but like you have these goals set, you know what you want to do, you know what you want to execute. And I'll tell you what, I know for me personally, and I'm just assuming a lot of people listening right now, we are along for the ride, and we are going to be cheering you on, Max.
Well, I feel it and I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just so fun. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten from our conversation today, we said it early, is just, you do have to just keep moving. And we talk a lot on this podcast about how running is a beautiful parallel to life. It's the races are like metaphors in so many ways. And the fact that you are so great at the 200-mile distance, it is a distance of very deep endurance, and it calls on every part of who you are as a person. You go through multiple highs, multiple lows. It doesn't matter if you're back of the pack or front of the packer. I love what you said, that you wanted to give Harry a hug. I think everyone on the start line of a 200, everyone respects each other. There
Totally.
is no like, oh yeah, you're out here. It's like you have mad respect that all those people actually believe that they can go that distance. Like all those people signed up. This is a very like, you just feel special being on the start line with that group of people, right? And I think that what it is that you are creating is it's a message that we can all be inspired by, that we can all choose to just keep going in every area of our life. So, I told you earlier, not everyone that listens to this is a runner. Not everyone runs ultras. We have a lot of people that are learning about ultras. We have, one of my favorite stories, Eddie always shares community stories and reviews and testimonials. We had a guy earlier this year who just so kindly shared his story. He's 400 pounds and he ran his first mile and he threw up halfway through that mile. And I was so overwhelmed with gratefulness hearing that, because the community that we have built it really is just based on this idea of strong body, strong mind, strong love in everything that we do. Yeah. And it isn't about whether or not we're at the top of the podium or how far we go or how intense our workouts in, but it's like what we learn in these races. It's what we learn in these training and how we can apply it to life. But I think for you started out at a very young age, having to figure out some tough things. Yeah,
navigate, overcome.
Overcome. You were made to do this. It's a part of who you are. And so I just want to end with some encouragement to you. I prayed for you this morning on my walk, and I loved looking up your name and seeing that Max is greatness, and that your last name Jolliffe is joy.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Max is like pops up so often in like shoes, and like I'm always seeing like the Vapor Max and the whatever.
Air Max and
and then it's cool.
It's so amazing, and I think and then just realizing that Jolliffe it's joyful, it's merry, it's happiness, and it's just happy life. And so my encouragement to you is just kind of what has always been since I first talked to you. Don't ever forget who you are. It is the best thing about you, Max.
Thank you.
And you have a bright future ahead of you. You have big races ahead of you. There's going to be some high highs. There's going to be some low lows.
Yeah, there is.
And but I think through it all, when you stay true to who you are, and you remember that you were made for greatness.
Yeah, thank you.
And the joy that you spread through others by remaining who you are and sharing that with us through these stories that you're creating, this wonderful content that you're creating, is going to reach far beyond the running community. It's going to reach far beyond all of the buckles and the medals that you bring home. It'll be something that you can carry on until you're an old man in a rocking chair, right?
Yeah.
So, it's such an honor to sit here with you and just share this conversation, because I know a lot of people listening will be greatly encouraged by you. I think you've just gained, we usually get anywhere between 20 and 40,000 people that listen to each episode. So
amazing.
Eddie and I always say when we sit down, we remind each other that we're filling a stadium right now.
Yeah.
We're filling a stadium. So think of going to a football game and, we've sat down and we've had this opportunity. It is a gift to share your story. And I think that your story was meant to be shared.
Yeah.
And
everything happens for a reason.
It happens for a reason. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being you. And tell everyone listening, Max, where can we continue to follow you? Tell us all your social handles and
Well, thank you so much, Sally. All of my social handles are WOAH _Max. That's Instagram, TikTok, which I don't even know if TikTok's even going to exist for very much longer. Who knows? I don't know what's going on there. But YouTube, Womax. I have my website is womax.com. So any of those places you can find any of my content. Yeah.
Was Womax a nickname that somebody gave you?
Yeah. I don't even know where it
long ago.
Came. Where it came along, but I just made my Instagram handle Womax, and it's kind of been
It's
all the things
catchy.
all the
Yeah.
things I've been doing are just like, whoa, like he's doing that. Yeah,
Exactly.
whoa.
That's what I was thinking of. I was like, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, whoa, Max. Like
Yeah.
it's perfect for
Yeah,
you.
no, thank you.
Max, we have people that are still running, people that are lifting in the gym right now. We have a lot of people who drive, and people remind us, hey, I'm washing my dishes. But I'm actually going to have you just give some parting words to our listeners. It could be a word of encouragement. Really at the base of your message, you can go ahead and give that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, just again, everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you're listening to me, I love you, and you're killing it. You're crushing it. Just keep on keeping on, one foot in front of the other, and just keep moving forward. And yeah, every day, all we can do is just try to do better, and that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you heard it from Max, you guys. We love you, we appreciate you, and we encourage you to keep choosing strong in all you do.